And then I go to a very interesting part, and that's our government services group. We call it AdTech, Aerospace and Defense Technologies. And that has three pieces. One of them is the work we do for NASA. So we do a lot of work on, especially around thermal systems and human interface, but other things for NASA. And we also operate the Neutral Buoyancy Lab here in Houston, where they train the astronauts. You know, a little connection there. It's in a pool with divers, so you can see where the connection might be. And then we also do a group that we operate out of Chesapeake, and we call it that MSD, Marine Services Division. And we do submarine repair. And so a lot of the hull integrity during the dry dock system, they bring a nuclear sub in for refueling, and we do a lot of the repair work to get that in service until the next refueling. And it's a very unique business. We are the only SubSafe certified contractor outside of the people that make submarines that do that repair work.
Wow, that to me is so cool. That is. Welcome to an episode of Strategic Conversations. We host insightful discussions with top business leaders and top business minds. Thank you for joining us today. We're hosting Mr. Rod Larson, the President and CEO of Oceaneering. We're really excited to host Mr. Larson in our strategic conversation, and he's going to be speaking at the Houston Strategy Forum's upcoming Leadership and Management Symposium, where the theme is going to be business DNA. We have had the privilege of hosting Rod several times at the Houston Strategy Forum, and he's a delight to watch and to learn from. I'm so excited that he's going to be coming back to speak to us. I'm Ravi Kathuria, the president of the Houston Strategy Forum, and author of How Cohesive is Your Company, and author of Happy Soul, Hungry Mind. Strategic Conversations are hosted by the Houston Strategy Forum. If you enjoy these videos, then be sure to hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Please join us there. Today's episode is sponsored by Cohegic Management Consulting and Cohegic and Executive Coaching Firm. Thank you for joining us. Rod, what a pleasure it is, sir. Thank you so much. I hosted you years back, and I think, Rod, you look exactly the same, and I've lost all my hair, so forget all of this we're going to talk about. That's the secret I want to find out, Rod. How do you manage to look this good even after so many years of, it's not an easy job to be a CEO of a mega company and go through the ups and downs. How do you manage to do that, Rod?
Well, I think, like everything else, it's a lot about your team. And I will give a lot of credit. It is a lot of fun to work at Oceaneering. Got great people around me, and that makes all the difference. So,
very good. Well, I'm sure we'll get a chance to visit with them when they come to the forum at the symposium, and I'll find out how good they are. No,
absolutely.
We'll have fun. So, Rod, for my audience who don't know what Oceaneering is about, would you give us a sense for the breadth and depth of the organization, its history? Congratulations on completing 60 years. But from everything from its revenues, annual revenues, to the size of the workforce, help us understand Oceaneering a little bit.
Sure. So my favorite topic, obviously, but we're about a $2.5 billion company in revenue. We employ about 10,500 people around the world. We have around 114 different nationalities represented in that group. More than half of our revenues come from outside the U.S. We operate in 52 countries around the world. So, and we're a very diverse company, so we do a lot of different things. 60 years old, you mentioned that as well.
Yes, congratulations.
We've got a long history, and we started as a diving company in the Gulf of Mexico 60 years ago. One of those great stories, two guys in a pickup truck and some diving equipment. So come a long way from there, and it's an interesting journey, but when you know the path, it all kind of makes sense.
Yes, and what an entrepreneurial journey. Congratulations to you, congratulations to the team. Congratulations to the founders. It's really cool to see a success story right here in Houston, Texas, right, where we're proud of your success and the fact that you're a global company. 52 countries. That's geographically dispersed. So it's amazing to see that. Tell us about the products and services that you focus on. right? What is it that you bring to the marketplace? Give us a sense for where are you solving, as your quote says, solving the unsolvable. What is it that you're solving, right?
So we have 5 groups that we talk about, and 4 of them are energy related, both oil and gas and also renewables. And then we've got one that's more focused on government related businesses. So if I start kind of the one that's kind of closest to our core is what we call subsea robotics, and that's the ROV business, or remotely operated vehicles. And this is where we cluster together a lot of the automation that happens under the water. So it deals with the ROV business, the survey business, and then the tooling that goes with the ROVs, and that's the biggest part of the company, certainly the flagship. There we go to an ROV-enabled business, and that's the Oceaneering Projects Group. And inside the Projects Group, we talk about larger tooling packages, so subsea well intervention, a lot of ROV operations, installation, maintenance, and repair. And that happens a lot in the Gulf, but we also do projects around the world. A big part of that is West Africa, but also North Sea, Caspian, and other areas. And think about that as where a lot of the oceaneering things come together on the back of a boat, and we operate these vessels. It's also where our legacy diving business resides in that group as well. And then talk a little bit about our manufacturing side. So the first 2 are mostly service businesses, but the manufacturing side is products. The biggest part of that is umbilicals, so the big subsea umbilicals. I always think of them as extension cords. They provide power, they provide communications, hydraulic power, chemical injection, all of these things. And so we have 3 big manufacturing plants around the world, in Brazil and in Scotland and the Gulf of Mexico. Here in the U.S. And then the 4th oil field business or energy business would be our IMDS business, and that's integrity management and data solutions.
Okay.
And that business does a lot of inspection on new construction, could be topsides for offshore oil and gas, it could be construction inside a refinery, and then we do the inspection of the existing plants. So a lot of that, and we put the data services on there as well, because more and more of that business is really data driven, thinking about predictive modeling and analytics to tell you where you should inspect and what you should expect life, kind of the rotational life to be. And then I go to a very interesting part, and that's our government services group. We call it AdTech, Aerospace and Defense Technologies, and that has 3 pieces. One of them is the work we do for NASA. So we do a lot of work on, especially around thermal systems and human interface, but other things for NASA. And we also operate the Neutral Buoyancy Lab here in Houston, where they train the astronauts. You have a little connection there. It's in a pool with divers, so you can see where the connection might be. And then we also do a group that we operate out of Chesapeake, and we call it that MSD, Marine Services Division. And we do submarine repair. And so a lot of the hull integrity during the dry dock system, they bring a nuclear sub in for refueling, and we do a lot of the repair work to get that in service until the next refueling. And it's a very unique business. We are the only SubSafe certified contractor outside of the people that make submarines that do that repair work.
Wow, that to me is so cool. That is that is exciting, because the world, as we have seen in the last just 2 or 3 years, we thought it becomes safer, but now now you look at all of the things that is happening in the Red Sea. Right? We find that geopolitical tensions can flare up without warning, right? And so for the U.S. to be on leading edge, we have to continue to serve our submarines and then be able to do it. Hopefully they're never in that situation where they need a repair, but if they do, how cool is that? And I want to talk about your defense work, right? The Department of Defense. But before I go there, give us a sense for where do you generate the revenues from, which industry sectors, and how do you see this evolving, right? Obviously, energy has a big part. Tell us, give sense for how big energy is, and where do you see this evolving?
Yeah, we're about 70% energy. So 70% of the company comes through energy, and then the other 30% is mostly government businesses, whether that's space or defense. But we also do some other types of work. We've got some plant work and some things like that are they're energy related, but not directly in energy. So a lot of the inspection work can happen anywhere. It can be mining, or it can be other places as well.
And do you see this trend accelerating, or do you see energy has been difficult space to be in, right? That's the understatement of the the decade, right? And so energy ebbs and flows. Hopefully, we're now getting reports that 2025 onwards, we're going to see we would still need a lot of investment in energy. Of course, new energy is coming in. So energy, there is ample space for growth in energy itself, and especially as we look at the Permian and the Permian plateauing, offshore is going to where the growth is going to be, right? Deep water, I mean, that's where it's going to be. So you have a trajectory there. But what about these other industry sectors? Where do you see it? Do you see, all right, or is there, you say, look, Ravi, as I develop the strategy for the next 10 years for the company, or 15 years, I want to continue to grow because I congratulate you on entering these industry sectors, right? How do you see that? Where do you see that going?
So I think there's the now and then later. Now, obviously, like you said, is energy and the adjacencies to energy. So where the next source is going to be renewables and hydrogen and even modular nuclear and things like that.
Yes.
We see that being really important to our business because it's so adjacent and sometimes it's the same customers. So that's easy. But then we talked about the government work,
yes.
and we see more and more opportunities to grow there. We've gone from being a subcontractor to being prime contractor on some
yes.
bigger pieces. So that's always very interesting for us because of our critical mass there already. But new industries, and I'm glad you brought it up because when I touched on the businesses, I didn't talk a lot about our mobile robotics business.
Okay.
And that mobile robotics business touches entertainment, it touches industrial manufacturing, it touches hospitals or healthcare. And that's this idea that we can start to replace human labor with either material movers
yes.
or autonomous forklifts,
okay.
things like this. And that business has been, we feel like, has been growing quickly. We've got some great new products on the market, but it's been forecast that business is going to be as big as the remaining energy business over time. So that's a really exciting part for us.
And so give us help us appreciate that. Give us or share with us some applications in the entertainment industry, or you talked about healthcare, right? Give us an understanding for how mobile unit might work in that situation. We're all used to seeing these Amazon robots running around their warehouses, and we have been amazed with that. How is entertainment industry? Is this?
So a lot of the work, we cut our teeth on a lot of things like amusement park rides, so dark rides. So anybody that's ridden a ride like Transformers, Spider-Man,
yeah.
Fast and Furious at one of the parks, Luigi's,
yeah.
Rollicking Roadsters at Disney, the Kong ride at Universal
yeah.
Studios. We build the vehicles.
Okay.
And so we built a lot of those vehicles. That business is a challenging business.
Yes.
We've pivoted that more towards some of the industrial robotics, but also to people moving. So think about 20 to 30 passenger autonomous buses.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is on what we call level 4 autonomy on controlled roadways, where we can move people around amusement parks, entertainment venues, and whatever, because it's a semi-controlled roadway.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people that need to be moved.
Yes.
And eliminating diesel buses and some other things with a driverless,
yes.
route-based autonomous bus is pretty exciting.
Yes, and I was reading this report. India wants to compete to win the Olympics in sometime here, but the future Olympic cities,
mm-hmm.
right? And so they're structured, but you talk about moving people, right? The need to move so many people. I mean, yes, that is going to be critical, and probably is a easier I say easier than having the autonomous vehicles run on regular streets, which other companies are doing, but are finding that that's still a challenging environment. So if you have a controlled environment, then that probably is an application that we can succeed in much faster. I love all of these applications. I want to ask this question. It's not related directly to oceaneering, but we were talking about this on our way here. That submarine that went down and the tourists for the Titanic, you're probably expert, or you have experts on your team who could tell us what really went wrong there. I would be fascinated to hear. Sorry for that.
No, and it is. I actually happened to be with our some of our experts that week. I was on the East Coast, and a lot of those people are in Hanover for us and in Chesapeake. And they're consultants on submarine safety, and because of the hull work we do and because of the deep submergence work we do. And they just talked about certain things. The materials they chose to use, they used some. He was very good at finding things that already were out there that he could make a submarine out of. But just some of the engineering was the corners were cut. I mean, just things that you couldn't test, things that you couldn't prove were durable over time, and those were the risks that were taken. And so I think we all think it was just sad that human life was put in balance.
Yes, there is a very tragic event. But as an industry, because we want that the ability to have submarines and then to have reliable operations, both I guess even whether they're manned vehicles or unmanned vehicles, we want safety, right? Because you do not want a mishap like that happening. So, sir, as you think about the strategy for Oceaneering, which are the key moves that you think you need to move as the industry is improving, the environment is improving, the opportunities are showing up? How do you position yourself?
I think the big thing is energy transition. We talk about, are we going to be right? And more often than not, we're right about how things change over time. We're just not really good with the timing. So we think it's going to happen next year, and it happens 10 years from now. But I think about energy transition in particular, and we know that energy is going to be around for a long time, and hydrocarbons are going to be needed for a long time. And so, how do we work with our customers to keep, to extend the license to operate? Make sure that we're doing the best we can to develop this resource, to provide the energy to the world, to the people who need it, but do it in a really responsible way. And so I think about the leading edge of hydrocarbons. How do we do it safer? How do we do it cleaner? How do we reduce the carbon footprint of our customers and make sure that we keep them out of the headlines?
And what are customers saying? Are your deep water customers saying they are going to continue to increase investment? What is your pulse from what customers are saying? What is their thinking? What is their strategy to continue to drive production higher, or and maybe get back on the CapEx cycle?
I think a lot of it is, and I've used this term a lot, but the cleanest, safest barrels. And you mentioned offshore. I mean, these are very often these deep waters tap into really big, prolific reservoirs. And so with fewer perforations, fewer wells drilled, you get much higher production. You do it in a very safe environment where all of the inputs and outputs are well controlled, so very low pollution. And that's why they believe that the deep water reservoirs have some of the lowest carbon footprint for development that are out there. So we keep thinking about that. The customers, these are one of the differences between this and you mentioned the Permian is it's a longer term development. It takes longer to develop these resources because of the big platforms that need to be built and other things. And so when we see them invest, we know that that's a sign that they believe that we're still 20 years left, 30 years left, because that's more the life cycle of some of these big offshore developments. So I think we see great promise in places like West Africa, Guyana, and Suriname, both in the Atlantic margin, Brazil. There's still a lot of frontier development that is just really getting kind of ramped up.
Started. And it holds a lot of promise. Very nice, sir. We are going to host you at the Houston Strategy Forum's Leadership Management Symposium, and our topic of discussion is business DNA. Right? It's a subject that is near and dear to me, and I find that in companies not enough emphasis is being placed on that. Right? I want to do everything possible to get companies to focus on it, because it can improve how a company executes and delivers, right, and really transforms the company. But as you think about business DNA, what is your sense for it? Do you have a sense that it's important? Do you have a sense? No, Ravi, you're getting ahead of yourself. It's not that important, Ravi. There are more important things. Analyst earnings calls are more important. Please don't say anything on that.
I'll be careful.
No, please. Right? What is it? How do you view business DNA? How do you see it? Do you see it integral to the organization? Where do you see, sir? We would love for you to...
For me it is. It absolutely is. I think you have to know who you are.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, what it is that makes up the core of your company, of your team. And so it's really, really important. And there's lots of ways we can see it, come to fruition, but it's this unity of purpose. It's about, doing the things that you were meant to do versus, trying your hand at whatever it is that you want to do. And it's, I think one of the challenges is really to define it well and make sure that you know what it is. Not necessarily what you wish it was.
Yes.
Not necessarily what you'd like to sell somebody it is or what you're trying to make it, but start with understanding what it really is.
And so how would you define the business DNA for Oceaneering? Either something that you have already discovered or you're in the process of chiseling and polishing, right? Because I describe this diamond that continues to be chiseled and polished, and its value goes up, right? The more polished it is, the more well cut it is, its value rises. So if Oceaneering is a diamond that you continue to chisel and polish, how do you look at that? What is its business DNA, and where do you say, look, I need to go back and really discover more about this aspect of it?
So I think a lot of it was, and when I first got here, I'm just coming up on 12 years with the company, and when I first got here, I did lean back, and I thought, well, I love the way it feels.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you eat a delicious meal, and somebody says, what's that seasoning? What's that?
Yes.
And you can't quite put your finger on it, but you continue to ponder that, and I did a lot of that. I spent a lot of time thinking, and I had my own ideas, but. Some years ago, the team decided, let's go out and let's be more formal about how we figure that out. And we actually polled all the people. And when we started polling people, one of the things I loved is they came up and they said, what does Oceaneering mean to you?
Yes.
And they said, we're a very safe company. We put safety first. We're very careful about what we ask our people to do. And then they said, and we care a lot about our customers.
Yes.
Our customers' problems are really important to us. Yes. What they need to do, how they need to do it, getting things done and getting it done right for them is really, really important. And then the other thing says, we do really cool, really hard things.
Yes.
And so, when you think, and there were all these big word clouds and things that said, how many times have these things been mentioned?
Yes.
And I will tell you, as a CEO, that's a pretty good list of 3. I mean, if you could have people say, what do your employees think? Yes. And that's kind of where we started, and it's where we came up with this, we solve the unsolvable.
Yes.
It's a big part of who we are is that we do things in really difficult environments.
Yes.
Things that haven't been done before or haven't been done in that environment.
Yes.
And so, you want your customers to come to you because they know that you'll do it without hurting anybody.
Yes.
And they know that you have a very high probability of success.
Yes.
When you can't just point to all these times that this has been done before.
Yeah, because you're in high risk environments. You're in high risk environments, and so safety is absolutely important. But also high risk environments require the level of innovation, right? You have to be willing to solve challenges and problems that seem unsolvable.
Yes.
Somebody in their right mind would go, excuse me, what are you thinking? This is, right?
Yep.
This is not, you better not go there.
Yes. Yep.
Better not take on that risk. So talking about that business DNA, now let's talk about how that permeates through the organization. How do you cultivate your team to be risk takers? How do you cultivate them to be innovators? How do you cultivate them to really push the envelope? And last few years, I bet, has been very difficult because you have had to choose. You say with the market, as you look at oil was at -30, you have 70% of revenues coming from energy, and you go, how do I drive innovation in this environment? I want to make sure that we stay afloat, right? And the industry stays afloat, right? So that push-pull, how do you manage that? How do you as a leader continue to drive that and then say, look, we need to be we need to make sure our business spirit, our business DNA is true to us.
I think, and a lot of people will talk about how you build an innovation machine, and there's a lot to that, and there's a lot to how you reward risk takers and how you reinforce that. But I mean, you back it all the way to the beginning, and if you really want people to innovate, and you want them to get excited about innovation, you gotta pick problems worth solving. And that's both commercial. I mean, things that there's value in solving this problem. Your customers care. It really is intrinsic to what they're doing. But the other part is it's got to be something that people want to solve, right? That's meaningful to the people that are doing the work, and they say, "Hey, this is really exciting. This is something that's never been done before, or it's something that I see the value in solving this problem." And not just that, "Hey, well, we'll sign an invoice," but also this is something that changes the world in some meaningful way. And when you can present your employees with opportunities to do things like that, it's hard for them not to rise to the occasion.
Yes. How do you build the processes within to make sure you're hiring and continuing to develop the teams, right? You make the right hires, and then you provide the right environment, culture to facilitate that, right? Because innovation is difficult. Innovation is difficult, but you need to build that ethos, and you say, look, this is what we need to do.
I think it comes back when you talk about the importance of business DNA is you have to be clear on purpose. You have to be clear on what did you sign up for? Is this what you signed up for? And you don't always get it right. That's the other side. So having really great two-way communication, spending time with people, getting close to them, understanding, did you hear what I said, or what did you hear? I need to change the way I said it. But being consistent with that communication and having the DNA that makes us all feel like everything is working in harmony. I think that's just such a huge part of it, is that when you don't feel like what you're doing versus what you're hearing is in conflict.
Yeah, listening to you it makes me realize what a technology leader you are, right? And you think about the ethos, and you say, look, I am truly a technology company, and your focus on the energy industry sector, or being part of this S&P 500, which is less than, or S&P energy sector, which is less than 3% of the marketplace, right? If you were focused on other industry sectors, and be on the leading edge of technology, right? We have this company, NVIDIA, which is worth more than all the S&P energy sector. That was true 2 weeks ago. And then last week, if that was not enough, they went up another 16% in one day, right? And so, and they're focused on AI, which is an extreme growth area, and so good for them. They're solving it. How do we take an Oceaneering, which is a truly technology pioneer, and have it seen and respected by Wall Street in that light, right? How do we do that? And it's a broader question, because it's not just Oceaneering. How do we take Houston, Texas, and be seen it as the center for innovation, not just Silicon Valley, right? And I talk about this at the forum. It's time. This is the time for Houston to shine, right? How do we take companies like you? How do we create the ecosystems? And how do we go to Wall Street and say, this is where investment needs to flow? How do we do that?
I think we lean in. I think we look for those opportunities where we apply what we know outside maybe our comfort area. And I think too often people see the oil and gas industry in particular, or the oil field services business, as being somebody who's defending their corner, right? Not looking out for other things to do, but more saying, hey, you can't stop using oil and gas because that's an existential crisis for me. We have to really talk about the things we do have industrial importance in other places. And we hadn't talked, one of the things that we got involved with is we took some of the things we knew on both fronts and built a counterbalance forklift. And it was looking for that thing, like you said. How do you find a bigger problem? You find a bigger thing, and I didn't know as many details as I know today, but the forklift driver was the biggest human component left in making an automobile. that was the biggest human labor component left. And so solving that problem, a truly autonomous counterbalance forklift, was one of the gaps. It was one of the technology gaps. And coming out with a truly world-class product, finding a global, very large customer to be the one, the early adopter for you, and then moving fast. I mean, making sure that you can drive that wedge. And again, technology, it's a little different problem. We've got this volatility in the market that we fight in oil and gas. When we go to this high-tech industrial market, it's all about the speed of innovation and the speed of disruption, and it's not necessarily what we've been used to in oil and gas. So we're learning some new things.
Yes, the new frontiers. How exciting is that? I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I could probably keep going, but I want to bring it to a close and ask you, sir, you've had a very successful career. A very blessed life. So when you close your eyes and you were to give us advice, when I grow up, I want to be like you. What advice would you? What is the secret to happiness, sir? What is the secret to life? What is the secret to success?
For me, it's just say yes. I mean, I've told people this. I'm one of those people that's guilty of not having a master plan.
Yes.
But I was always curious, and I was always anxious to go do the next thing.
Yes.
And someone said, "Would you be willing to move to Venezuela? Would you be willing to go work in R&D? Would you be willing to take on this training project?" Every chance I had that I could say yes, I said yes. And I didn't necessarily know why at the time.
Yes.
But all these different things that I got to do and try my hand at and understand has really helped me. It's helped me a lot to be a CEO, because that now you're in charge of all these different disparate things, and having spent a little time in so many of them has been really, really helpful. And the other thing I would add to that is understand all the parts. I mean, get close to the people that do the work, and whether those are the people that are on the back of the boat for us and working in harsh weather. Really get to know what their day looks like and understand those things piece by piece by piece, because they are the ones who make it work. They are absolutely the lifeblood of the company, and the better you understand and have that empathy and understanding for what they do, I think the more effective you're going to be as a leader.
I love that advice. I hope everyone who's listening, especially the newer generation, really pays heed to what you've said, because you've said you need to be flexible. You need to be open-minded, right? Because if you're closed-minded, if you're not flexible, you're not going to take on those opportunities, which on the surface doesn't seem too interesting, right? You say, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. But if you're open and you're flexible, you're welcoming and you're in a receiving mode, you would see that opportunity. And then the second point that you made, I think it's also wonderful, is that be interested, be curious. Understand exactly how things happen. Do not stay on the surface, because if you stay on the surface and if you think I can get ahead by just doing by being a great talker, that's not going to work, right? You really have to get down close to where the rubber meets the road and understand the business at its core level.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that advice, sir. Congratulations to you in your leadership. Oceaneering is doing well. Revenues are growing, EPS is growing, sir. Congratulations. We appreciate your leadership. We appreciate Oceaneering being here in Houston, Texas, and we wish you great successes in the years to come, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And please join us at the Houston Strategy Forum's Leadership Management Symposium, and come discuss business DNA. This is at the Houston Strategy Forum. It's a closed door session. Chatham House rules. So we'll get really into business DNA. We'll really dissect this, and we'll have fun. So please join us. Thank you so much for listening and watching this strategic conversation today.